more than I bargained for. I purchased a hunting property in southern Maryland a few years ago. It's a decent chunk of land, over 400 acres, almost entirely wooded. Its history goes all the way back to the 1660s when it was deeded to some English military colonel. It has an old plantation-style house built in the 1870s. We were told the original house had burned down. It has a family cemetery with gravestones that go back to the 1780s and a lot of overgrown boxwood bushes, the ones you prune into shapes. The place did seem a little creepy right off the bat, but I've always been a pragmatic kind of person. I didn't give that stuff a second thought. The land had been leased by a hunting club for the past 20 or so years. All the stands were set up and trails were already established. It was a perfect fit for us. At one point, I made an offhanded joke to the hunting club guy about the haunted house. It really does look like one. He said something along the lines of, "Yeah, this place will make your hair stand up sometimes." He seemed surprisingly serious. I thought he was going to make a joke back about it. Again, didn't make much of it, but it stuck out in my mind. The house was unlivable at the time of purchase, so we were commuting back and forth from a friend's anytime we needed to be down there to get work done. I had never been there at night by the time deer season came around. Me and 4 other guys went opening day for rifle. We have to get to our stands pretty early when it's still dark. We each go alone to different stands in different areas. First light is usually around 6:15, so we got there around 5:15. It's about a 15-minute hike through the woods to the stand I was at. Opening day, no issues. Nothing weird happened. Kind of a slow morning, saw a couple deer but nothing worth taking. Second day, same schedule, got there at 5:15 and started my hike out. Part of this hike is on a long and straight logging path. Once I got on this logging path, I started to get the sense that someone was watching me. The feeling came out of nowhere. I've hunted since I was a kid and have had deer snort and stomp at me in the dark. I know the wildlife is always watching, but this felt very different. I shined the flashlight through the trees in all directions, didn't see anything, and chalked it up to being paranoid because of what the hunting club guy said. It was an intense feeling. I got to my stand, which is what we call a ladder stand. It's basically a ladder going up a tree with a seat at the top. Got situated and was looking down at my phone since it was still dark. Out of the top of my vision, I saw a bright light. Looked up real quick and it was a bluish-white glow that lasted about 2 seconds at about 150, 200 yards out straight ahead. My adrenaline was pumping like crazy. I thought to myself, what the heck was that? The next closest hunter was probably close 500 yards away, but to my left. There's no way I could have ever seen his light through the trees. I kept my stare at that same spot for what felt like forever, but never saw it again. I ended up trying to justify it in my head as either like seeing stars or maybe a hallucination of some sort. Around 9 or 10 a.m. I got down and walked in that general direction to see if I could see anything real quick, but there was nothing. We're on private land, there's no one else out here. 2 guys got deer that morning. I did not. Decided not to mention the light it to anyone, it was probably just in my head anyways. Day 3, we switched up the stands, since the 2 guys who got deer weren't there. One of the guys did end up going to the stand I was at. Let's call him John. The day went on as normal, but was another bummer. None of us saw anything worth taking. John didn't mention anything out of the ordinary, and by that point I had started to forget about the light, and didn't care anymore. Day 4 was our last day, and was another normal day, but thankfully I had finally gotten my deer, a small 7-point. But I was happy. John ended up taking a spike, small buck, for the meat, and the other guy decided not to take anything. We went our separate ways. A couple weeks later, I decided to put up some trail cams and sent out a text to the group with a joke about maybe catching the old colonel wandering around. That's when I got a call from John, and he told me he forgot to tell me that he saw lights in the woods at the same stand I did. My heart dropped. I said, "Dude, you're not going to believe this, but I saw the same thing." I asked what color was it and in which direction. He said it was like a bright blue or white straight out. Said it was quick on and off, so he couldn't say exactly. I thought for sure at that point the place was haunted, but had to go out there. I immediately drove down and scoured the area in front of that stand. After about 15 minutes walking around in the vicinity of where I thought that light was, I found an old ladder stand. Looked like it had been there for a long time, maybe 5, 10 years. Still could be used, but it wouldn't be safe. We had a poacher on the property. I called the game warden, but she said unless I caught the guy there was nothing they could do. just told me to take the old stand down, which I did. I set cameras up in that area and never saw anybody. I wish I had told John about the light. I still feel like an ass. It was an incredibly dangerous situation for both of us. Thankfully, nothing bad happened. It's been about 3 years since then, and haven't had any issues. Have done a lot of walking looking for old stands, and I actually have found a couple more I took down. I tell everyone now who hunts here to tell me if they see anything out of the ordinary.